Alright, so now we're moving on to the portion or the section of the worksheet that is the percent that equals part over whole. So if you have a question that says what percent of 15 is 12? Okay, so we're not finding 15% of 12 or 12% of 15. We're trying to figure out what would be the percentage of 15. So 15 is our whole, is 12. That's our part. So another way to think of it is put the number that has after is, which is 12, over 15, which is the of. Okay, what percent of 15 is 12? Okay, so in order to do that, we need to turn it into our fraction. So the percent equals 12 over 15. Okay, so in order to get the percent, we need to divide. So remember, it's numerator divided by the denominator. Okay, so this is our numerator. Oh, messed that up. This is our denominator. So for all intents and purposes, the smaller number, the smaller number, the numerator, usually for this unit, usually is going to be going inside the house. So it's going to be 15. How many times can 15 go into 12? That's what we're doing. Okay, so if I do 15 into 12, it can't. So I have to put the decimal here after the 12, add the 0. 15 goes into 120 8 times. 8 times 15 is 120. So the percentage is 0 and 8/10, but that is not our percent. We need to turn that into a percentage. So if you remember from how we turn the worksheet when we were turning percentages into decimals, decimals into fractions, fractions into percentages. So for this one, this is a decimal. We need to turn it, like I said in the so if you look back on, this section of the paper, when we were trying to turn the percentage into a decimal, we had to move the decimal 2 times to the left. So if we have to turn a decimal into a percentage, we have to move it 2 places to the right, which would leave us with 80%, which is the same as doing 0 and 8/10 times 100. It's the same thing, but you're doing the same method times 100. Then you just but the easy way is just moving the decimal 2 times to the right. So you have 80%. So 12, what percent of 15 is 12? It is 80%. So 12 is the part, this is the whole. So 12 out of 15 is 80%. So if we had so think about it. If you had a test that was worth 15 points and you got 12 points, so you got an 80% on the test, okay? So another way to think of this is the percent over 100 equals is over of. So if you look, we don't know what the percentage is. We know it's over 100 because percent is always over 100, okay? But we know our part and we know our whole. So the same method that we used here, you can cross multiply. So 15x equals 100 times 12, which is 1200. And then divide each side by 15, and you would get x equals 80%, or 80. So then that would be 80%. So let's move on to this question. What percent of 80 is 65? Okay, so our part is 65, and the whole is 80. So it's 65 out of 80. So if we divide 80 into 65, so I'm just going to get a post-it over here because I'm running out of room. So if we divide, remember, The numerator goes inside the house. The denominator is outside. Okay, so 80 can't go into 65. So we have to add the 0 and we got to put our decimal. Hold on. Let me do this again. So 65 is our numerator, that's inside the house, and 80 is on the outside. So 80 can't go into 65, so we need to put our decimal and add our 0. Okay, and then how many times does 80 go into 65? It goes in 8 times. 8 times 80 is 640. 650 minus 640 is 10. Bringing down the 0, 80 can go into 100 one time. 1 times 80. 100 minus 80 is 20. Bring down another 0. 80 goes into 200 2 times. 2 times 80 is 160. And it's 40, and I'm going to stop right there because I know that for percentages we just need to move our decimal. This is going to be one of those decimals that's just going to go on forever. So I have my decimal here, but I got to turn it into a percent. So I'm going to move the decimal 2 times to the right. So I'm left with 81 2/10, and that's our percent. Okay, so now so we finished this section of our of the percent of a number wheel. So all you need to remember is you need to just divide the part by the whole. So if it says what percent of 15 is 12, you're taking the is, dividing it by the of number. So it's going to be 12 divided by 15. Same thing here. What percent of 80 is 65? So 65 is our part, so 65 divided by 80. Part divided by whole. Okay, so now that you finish this, before you move on to the last video, I want you to, it's the same thing, I want you to do the problems here on the side. So I want you to do this problem. What percent of 160 is 32? What percent of 40 is 36? And then what percent of 120 is 6? Okay, so do those three. So these are it's the three